Hello everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today for another video. Today I'm going to be telling you guys 5 ways in which my current WIP changed how I write. So I think the first and most obvious way that my current WIP changed how I write was that the inspiration for it caused me to change my preferred genre. Now, you all know my favorite genre to read has always been biblical fiction, but I was really more of a historical fiction, American Revolutionary War era to contemporary kind of gal when it came to my writing, and I still do have a whole notebook full of contemporary book ideas. But for whatever reason, I decided to write a biblical fiction novel this year. Oh, the Lord works in mysterious ways.
And recently I was just very inspired to write something completely different. And once I tell you, you're all gonna laugh. I was inspired to write a biblical fiction novel. Go figure, right? So if you've been hanging out here for a while, you probably remember in my biblical fiction video when I said this. I understand how hard it can be and how stressful it can be to get those facts straight, let alone if it's biblical fiction. I feel like you have an even greater potential to mess up. As a writer, I can imagine that would be an extremely daunting undertaking. I have a huge amount of respect for them, and that genre is way more than I could ever handle writing. And basically, just what I was saying is that I cannot imagine myself ever writing biblical fiction ever, because it would just be too hard for me. And I am a historical fiction gal, but biblical fiction just would be way too hard. And lo and behold, a week later, I was struck with inspiration to write a biblical fiction story. Never say never, because you make plans and God laughs.
So that was a big adjustment, and it definitely required a lot more work than I'm used to. I think all writing is technically work, but I didn't get to just invent whatever world I wanted to invent. I had to do a lot of research and outlining and planning, and I've never been much of a planner. I've always been sort of a pantser, or someone who just figures out what they're doing on the go, and that really wasn't going to work for this novel. And through this novel, I also discovered that I am, in fact, a plotter and not a pantser. I do not like going and not knowing what I'm doing. I need plot details in order to work, so that was a thing that we learned. I think another way in which my current WIP changed how I write also changed in that I became more focused because I was so inspired by this idea, and because I had built such an amazing community of writers over on Instagram as well as a little bit on YouTube. I was just starting out here when I started writing this book. I really became more focused and more goal-oriented versus when I used to just write whenever I felt like it and I never actually finished any project. So that was definitely a change, but a good one also, because it meant that I became more focused on like, okay, I want to try and write every single day. I want to try and write as many words as I can. I want to sit down and dedicate time to writing instead of just kind of letting it lay on the back burner a little bit. Another way in which my WIP changed the way I write is that when I started writing my WIP, I started using placeholders in my writing. And again, I keep saying I'm going to do a whole video on how I use placeholders, but very briefly, a placeholder in writing is when you are writing a scene and you just lose inspiration, so very quickly you're like, and then something else is going to happen here, and then you move on and you write the next scene or a scene later in the book. So for instance, I actually wrote the ending of my book out of order. So I wrote the last couple of scenes before I went back and rewrote and wrote a couple of the scenes in the middle. So I started using placeholder scenes. The type A in me got really weirded out at first, like, I can't go out of order, this is so wrong. But they actually did work for me, and they really helped me, and now I think it will actually help me to be more productive going forward, because let's just say that there's a difficult scene and I can't really figure it out and it's holding me back and I'm not moving forward. I can put a placeholder there and then keep going and potentially write another scene and then still make progress while waiting until I'm in the right headspace to go back and tackle that scene that I couldn't tackle before. The fourth way in which writing my WIP changed the way I write in general is that writing my WIP made me terrified of writing. I used to just write with absolutely not a care in the world, and then when I started writing this, I very quickly realized it was something that I wanted to be published, whether that's traditional or self-publishing. I wanted it to be published, which made me terrified because then as I was writing every single word, I was bogged down with thoughts of, okay, someone is going to read this word, so it better be a good word, and then the word that follows must be equally, if not better, than the previous word because someone will read that word too, and all of these words have to be amazing because someone is going to read every single one of them. So in a way, it made me terrified of writing because then suddenly there was this added pressure of, okay, at some point I want this book to go out into the world, so it better be good, if you know what I mean. But that's okay also, because when you're writing a first draft, you eventually get over that fear. That's what editing is for, so we're all safe in that department. And then the fifth way in which writing my WIP changed the way that I write, which I guess is kind of an accepted thing, but I'm just gonna throw it in anyways, is that it changed my writing style. And obviously, you know, every time you write another book, your writing style is gonna grow and develop and change a little bit more every single time. But it really changed how I wrote, and I could go back and read to you guys some of the earlier things that I wrote in my past life, and they would not necessarily be amazing. They might not even be good, but it's completely changed how I write. My writing style, my voice is different. It kind of gave me a little bit more of a poetic flair also, not to toot my own horn here. With the knowledge and skill set that I have with, you know, college education and high school and just growing up and getting older, I was able to include and incorporate more themes, more stylistic choices, more metaphors, more elements of foreshadowing, just things that made my writing more deep or more in-depth than just a surface level story, which I was really proud of. So those are 5 ways in which writing my WIP changed the way that I write. I think this is actually a really fun video idea and I really enjoyed doing it. So to the people who drop suggestions when I ask for them on Instagram, I really do read them and I really do get around to filming your videos eventually. So the more suggestions you'll want to drop, the more videos you're gonna get. Anyways, that's all I have to share with you guys today about writing and how writing my WIP changed the way that I write as a whole. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to like it, give it a thumbs up if you want to see more content like this. If you have video ideas, leave them in the comments or DM me on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at Jenna Van Mourik, and you can also find me on my blog at www.jennavanmourik.com. All my other links and things are going to be in the description below, so if you want to get more connected with me, make sure you check all of those out and hit the subscribe button so you get a notification every time that I post. But only if you hit the bell icon, because YouTube's algorithm is unusual. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!